So continuing on with my look at more classic games, or unboxings of classic games. I had this one. I've actually had it for a while and realized, this is unpunched, so this would be a good opportunity to do an unboxing. I got a copy of 1776. This is the old Avalon Hill game on Revolutionary War, and I believe in the General magazine there's also a variant to cover things like the War of 1812 and French and Indian Wars. This is a fairly old title for Avalon Hill. A lot of the unboxings I've done have been at games that were from the 80s, maybe some from the late 70s. This one I think first came out in 76. Actually, if you look at the copyright there, if I can get it within the light, that says 74. So the original came out in 74. As we'll see when I open this up, this is actually the second edition, which I think may have been by 76 in time for the bicentennial. I know there was another version of this that had like a big banner across the front that said, Wargame for celebrating the bicentennial or something like that. So this copy I found, I don't know if I bought this from the BGG Marketplace or from eBay. It's been a couple of years ago, I think, since I bought it, and haven't gotten around to playing it, of course, along with, all this other stuff. Not more unplayed than played on that shelf, to put it mildly. So here is 1776, and it's really a very good copy. I mean, there's hardly any shelf wear on this box. A little bit on the bottom corner. The back has some bubbling on the cover, but otherwise, perfect. No blown corners, crushed ends, anything like that. It was a fairly minty copy, and the contents were equally minty inside. The seller was kind enough to put a couple of counters in this bag here that had fallen out of the counter sheets. I think 3 of them had fallen out and a couple of blanks, which I verified. This version had the tactical combat cards. There's 16 of these, and they're actually fairly nice. I don't know if they came. A lot of games in this era came with cards that were in an actual sheet that you would punch out. The SPI games typically did that, and I don't remember. I'm trying to think of Avalon Hill games that I have that have cards. Kremlin. I think Merchant of Venus definitely had punch-out cards, and you had to like trim the edges of them. Well, these don't have any of the nubs from punching out on them, so I don't know if somebody cut those off, if they were punched, or if they came individually already, punched out. I just don't know how they originally came. So, but this was how they were when I got them. 16 of them, 8 different cards for each side. And the seller also nicely wrapped them in the Hugo's Amazing Tape stuff, which is that non-stick tape that's good for wrapping your cards in because it doesn't bend them or leave glue or anything on there, or like rubber bands can damage your cards if you leave them over time. This was unpunched. Here's the British counter sheets in a lovely sort of chartreuse color. On the orange, I think those are the Tory militia, as you can see on the counter sheet there. No backs on these. And typical of this era, when you get to the mid-early 70s, you're not usually going to see double-sided counters. They are glossy, though, which is interesting. Compared to the SPI games of this era, counter sheets were frequently flat or matte finish counters. Here's your Continental. Sorry, trying to center this in my phone camera. Hopefully it's not too dark. The way I've got my spotlights set up down here, I don't have this backlit. Here's your militia. And so the die cutting looks pretty decent on this. You've got, there's little tiny side nibs here. Those can be easily trimmed off with a rotary cutter. Yeah, there's French regulars down there at the bottom. So your Rebel Militia and Continental Regulars. That's all of your counters. Your terrain effects chart. Unfortunately, it is on a sheet of paper. It's weird though, it's glossy on the front and like a matte finish on the back, so very interesting that this would be like on this sheet of glossy paper like that, because there are in fact cardstock charts in here. And you can see here, this is the reinforcement time record chart, and this is on good heavy cardstock of the type that you would usually expect to see for your charts. And then you got scenario cards that has all your information about the various scenarios in the game. Also double-sided. Scenario 1, Scenario 2, this is the Saratoga campaign. Scenario 1 was the 1775 invasion of Canada. And you got Scenario 3, which is Green's Southern campaign. And these were actually still attached, so I imagine they were all probably attached to each other. Came out. Here's their Virginia Yorktown campaign, 1781. And then here's your CRT tactical results matrix using your cards. And more combat tables. Only one of these, though, became more common in the later years to include multiple CRTs. And actually, it's kind of surprising that there's a chart or a cardstock with the CRT for this at all. Given this era, a lot of times the CRT and most of your charts were all on the map. And then here is, be careful getting these out because these rules are in fantastic shape. I mean, there's just no, it's like they've just never even been touched. As you can see, that's the second edition rules. It's on glossy, which is a bit unusual for Avalon Hill. And it has just like the design of it. Oh, it looks so like not even 70s. It almost looks 60s with the font style that's used. The colors. It's sort of a 3-color publication, and it's just kind of interesting just how old and sort of antiquated it looks. But in a sort of typical Avalon Hill style, you have like basic rules, advanced rules. And then I think it moves on to optional. Yeah, there's your advanced game optional rules, and so you kind of can stack everything together. You've got your campaign game, which is a whole other set of rules, and then even optional rules for the campaign, and then some extensive designer's notes. But just that sort of cursive looking script, just so, to me that just screams like 60s, 1960s. Even though we're into the 70s by the time this came out. Old Avalon Hill logo in the back there. So just gorgeous set of rules. And then this was in here, this catalog, which I've never seen one of these types of catalogs from an Avalon Hill game before. But so this was pretty entertaining to flip through, just to look at all these old mid-70s Avalon Hill games. There you got the infamous Outdoor Survival, I think possibly actually the best-selling Avalon Hill game of all time, but conversely one of the worst games of all time. And so I was flipping through this, and just some of these old classic titles that caught my eye, some of the old sports games, Status Pro Baseball. And there's Kingmaker. Yeah, here, Caesar Elysia. That's one I gotta get. I'd love to find a nice minty copy of Caesar Elysia. So, and then in here are the mounted boards. Let me stop this and come back for a look at the map. And here we see the map all laid out. It's 4 pieces, although I'm not sure if this was something Avalon Hill did or if something the original owners did. Even though the game looks unplayed, I mean, it's unpunched and the rules are unread. But it looks like 4 board sections, but they were kind of split into these 2. And there's like a section, one side taped underneath with like a black tape that, not like duct tape, but sort of a flexible fabric kind of tape. Take a look at it here. And I'm not sure if that was something done by Avalon Hill to attach the pieces, or if somebody did that after the fact. I haven't seen other copies of the game, so I'm not sure what the original means or methods were. But you can see it's a fairly long map that covers that whole coastline. You know, kind of unimpressive in terms of graphical standards. It's not an ugly map. Not quite as appealing to me as, say, the SPI maps of the era from somebody like Redmond Simonson. But you know, definitely has all of the information you would need there, all clearly legible. Not as ugly as some maps of that period. So, and in true Avalon Hill fashion, it's of course a mounted board. So, you know, an impressive package for Avalon Hill at the time, and you know, obviously easy for them to capitalize on the bicentennial of this era, releasing it right around that time. So, so I do look forward to eventually getting this punched, clipped, and on the table. But I wanted to get it recorded on film in its pristine original condition. And there it is, 1776.